it's a lot of different things that we can do, a lot of different tools the coaches got to play with. It's just up to us to make them look good, communicate, and get the job done.
KJ and Dondero, WEEI. Happy Father's Day to you. That's some fathers screaming right there like, yes, I get to eat what I want, it is my day. That's Jabril Peppers. The Patriots talking about, look, the defense have so many pieces that they have to move around. And, Mark, it leads to what happened with Jack Jones at Logan Airport on Friday.
Yeah. Go ahead. Say it.
Jack Jones arrested for having a concealed weapon, among other charges, including one of those weapons being loaded in his carry-on luggage, not the checked baggage, the carry-on. And this is concerning because the Patriots' defense with Belichick doesn't depend on superstars for it to be effective. So every piece is important. Now, Jack Jones started 2 games last year, but again, that means that Belichick believes that he can put him in a starting position, and he was a rookie. Interception, touchdown return. So, integral part of what the Patriots are trying to do moving forward, and now has a court appearance in Eastie this week about really getting the Massachusetts law with having like the multiple clip issue. I got to give a shout to the Hartford Courier. They're the only ones that mentioned in their story a little bit of back story with Jack Johnson, if you did not know.
Jack Jones.
Jack Jones, I'm sorry. I keep saying, I'm saying Jack Johnson and thinking of the boxer. With Jack Jones, it's kicked out of school, I believe, at USC, was arrested for attempting to break into a Panda Express. And, Mark, I don't know, their rolls, those egg rolls are amazing. So I'm not worth breaking into, but these are all things that are on the books about this guy. And my concern is the attitudes socially of players now getting ahead of the Belichick way or the Patriots way, where it isn't respected as much. Because think about this. The only other time you've ever heard of something like this would be the Aaron Hernandez situation, and you saw how that was scooped up quick. But if you have a developing team where you're trying to get an offense, right, different situation, but you've got an offensive situation where you're trying to figure that out, you got a new offensive coordinator. The one thing that's been solid through all the transition that's been going on with this team over the last 2-3 years has been the defense. But when you have something like this, and it makes you almost think like, what happens if you didn't cancel the last day of practice? This changed the whole narrative. But Jack Jones on his way to California, to L.A. He went to high school in Long Beach. You can't necessarily wear the Patriots colors out there. I don't know, but there is a part of understanding of why you might feel like you need protection, just not the way to go about it. And now that's one more thing that Bill and these guys are going to have to answer about the player. You remember, what was it, like 2 years ago with Patrick Chung up in New Hampshire? So I'm just concerned that some of the new things, right, because you see with John Morant and his successive things with being on social media with weapons, if this stuff is starting to permeate into a situation where you have an older leadership kind of established culture that now has to deal with new people like this, or do you just say goodbye?
Oh, boy. A lot to unpack based on what you just said. Number one, I'm going to go, I won't go in order here. I'm just going to list them out. Number one, if you're the New England Patriots at this juncture, okay, you mentioned the past of this guy, this moron, Jack Jones. They're in a position, the Patriots, where they have to take chances on players with talent that might have a bit of a checkered past. They have to, okay, because Tom Brady is gone, and they don't have the talent they once had. Talent is an issue for this team. They need playmakers where they can find them. They're going to have to take chances on those types of players every now and then. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, Tom Brady's gone. So Tom Brady is gone. So the thing is, the culture that you talk about, that doesn't exist. There is no Patriot way anymore.
Well, but here's the thing.
There's no Patriot way.
But here's the thing. If Belichick is still here, he's the one that sets the tone.
He sets the tone, but the tone was set by Brady. He could set whatever tone. And now the tone is trying to be set by Mac Jones. Okay, now he's got to be good in order to really make it mean something, and we don't know because last year the coaching staff was such a disaster.
They were in the wrong place. They were in the wrong place because they've been there during those wonderful years you mentioned. They just got two guys stuck in the wrong place, right? That's really all last year was about. I'm concerned about, I think of past head coaches of teams that have been with programs for years and years and years, and as the new players come in, there's kind of the social aspect that meets kind of the parental, I run this thing that kind of fades away. Does it feel like this Jack Jones situation could be kind of like a ground zero, if you will, of, okay, is there now kind of a path of guys? Because you say they got to take chances on them. But in the past, they didn't have to take chances on them other than get rid of them. They're like, I didn't care less if you didn't care what you did because, like you said, there was Tom Brady. And then even going back to the Aaron Hernandez situation, there was Tom Brady. But now, if you're really trying to establish that it's a Bill Belichick thing, do you nip this in the bud right now, or do you say, we got to roll with it?
I mean, I would do a little due diligence and figure out why he had guns in his carry-on.
Loaded
guns. Maybe there's an explanation he could. I don't know.
There's no explanation to have a loaded weapon.
What do you want me to say? He brought a loaded gun. He was trying to bring it onto a plane. A loaded gun
in his carry-on. Wait,
these people. I don't know.
Do you cut bait now to make a statement saying, look, whatever the social nonsense you think is the way to do, how you handle you, how you do you, what is your truth, whatever that is, do you lay the smacketh down and say, you know what, you cut? Because I did also look to see, is Jack Jones have a big
wasn't he in trouble? Didn't he get suspended at the end of the year last year? I mean, I think this isn't some all-pro we're talking about here. He had one big signature moment when he picked off Aaron Rodgers.
But he's a cog. He is one of the cogs in the wheel. He's one of the spokes in the wheel.
Look,
right?
I don't know anything about. I don't know Jack Jones. Okay, so I'm sure Bill Belichick has a read on the guy and whether or not he's worth having around. So I'm going to at least trust him. I know he's made mistakes in the last few years. I'm going to trust him to make the right call here, whether you think that this is a guy that you should have in your program or not. Yeah. I'm hoping Bill Belichick's at least capable of making that decision.
I think
the guy had a loaded gun in his carry-on onto a plane. What do you want me to say? What do you want me to say to you?
KJ and Dondero, 617-779-7937, text line 37937. 10 minutes away from the best father-kid combo in sports draft. I would want you to say to me, cut bait or keep it. Let's go to Steve in Fall River. Steve, your thoughts on Jack Jones, as well as some other things regarding the Red Sox. Thanks for calling KJ and Dondero.
Can he play between the lines?
What does that mean?
He's $1 million a year player. What does he do on the football field? I give Jack bleep. When I was I remember shooting somebody. They didn't want him. I don't need alpha boys. I need football players. I've already.
Yeah, we probably got to let Steve go. Get away from the metallic stuff. That will help. Yeah,
listen.
I think what Steve was saying is he doesn't care. He needs guys that could get out there to play. Yeah,
right. That's why I'm hoping Bill Belichick has a read on this guy. Now, that was an incredibly stupid thing to do, but I don't know if you've developed a relationship and you know that there's not going to be another issue going forward. You keep them around. I mean, the Patriots need talent, they need players, and they need a win.
Right.
If they think this is truly, genuinely a one-off.
But look where we are in the environment, right? Because John Morant's coming off of getting 25 game suspension.
By the way, did you see the tweet he sent to John Morant? I mean, come on.
Right. Oh, that's why you be careful what you put on Twitter. People. But that's the thing, right? There is a culture that exists now that involves guns with young people that are no different than some people collecting sneakers. And I think at some point, do you want to find yourself as Bill Belichick or even Robert Kraft, almost kind of like going back to a high school classmate of mine, Christian Peter, where suddenly the bigger social conversation now becomes dominant more than football? That's my concern, is that this Jack Jones story, if the guy's back and everything's going around and they're like, well, wait a minute, look what the NBA has done with the guy just flashing it on whatchamacallit on Instagram, and now you've got a player here that is still here. And I'm not calling for him to be gone, but it feels like heat is going to come on this team, and that's one big distraction they don't need, considering this team is fighting probably to get to 8-9 wins.
I don't think you're making it into this big thing. Like, this isn't a guy who's
You don't
a game
see
changer.
you don't
He's not
see
a
it
game
coming.
changer.
But people who want to bring heat like this with stories like this, they don't need game changers. They don't need it to be the start of the team.
What does that mean? He's bringing heat. Who is this? He's packing heat. Who's bringing it?
Stop. That's not fair. I'm talking about those who want to follow the story. If there's a bigger conversation about guns in America, all right?
Okay.
There are going to be people who are going to bring that conversation
Fine.
to the locker room.
Is Bill Belichick going to care about that, for crying out loud? I mean,
is Robert Kraft going to? Because remember, when Parcells drafted Christian Peters, it was a Parcells move. And that's when he made the grocery statement. And it wasn't until Robert Kraft's late wife stepped forward, because the Globe had put the story out at what Christian had been through when he was at the University of Nebraska. So again, you can take another subject that's big in society and move it to sports, because that's the thing. Look what's happened with the PJ and Live tour, right? Taking the bigger societal thing and applying it to the thing of sports and having the conversation. I am concerned that it becomes a distraction depending on what happens in court this week.
Okay. I'll say this very clearly. I am not at all concerned that this becomes a distraction. If you want to talk about, is this guy in the future plans of the New England Patriots, and is that going to affect the roster and the defense and their ability to shut down opponents, which they're desperately going to need to be able to do this year, I'll have that conversation. If you want to talk about this thing becoming a distraction when it happened in June and you were 3 months from the start of it's not going to be it's not that big a deal. He's not a marquee name. He's a guy. He's a Joe.
Yeah, but he's a Joe that's played. It's one thing to say, hey, this guy's on special. No, he's not a Joe.
He's a Joe. He's a
Mark,
guy.
If you start a couple of games and you're a rookie on that defense, you're not a Joe. He's not a Joe.
It's not a big enough name.
He's not Matthew Judon, but he's not a Joe either, right? Because again, that's how the defense.
He's a Joe. He's a guy. He's nobody special. He hasn't done anything in the league except one time intercepted a superstar. It's not going to be a big enough deal. And as dumb as it was, nobody was hurt. It's not a big enough deal. It's just not a big enough.
But here's the thing. I think the argument is it can't be like, well, because no one was hurt. It's because of where we are in American society about the conversation of guns, and that an NFL player brings a loaded gun with extended magazine clips in his carry-on luggage. You best believe that someone's news division is going to say, hey, check on this. It's KJ and Dondero, 617-779-7937, text line 37937. Let's go to Jamie and Bill Ricca on Jack Jones. Jamie, thanks for the call. You're on KJ and Dondero.
Hey, how you doing, gentlemen? I just wanted to point out that you're identifying two likely realities here. Either Belichick decided to get rid of the guy, or the news pressuring it, and social media and guns and all the people that don't like guns. Neither of those has got anything to do with anything. This guy has had trouble with the law before, right? He had 2 loaded automatic weapons in his carry-on luggage and got busted at an airport. He's dealing with the FBI and federal charges. He's not playing football. He's going to jail.
Fine. He's going to jail.
I gotta say.
He's going to jail.
Jamie, thanks for the call.
He's just a guy. I mean,
how can we say that?
He's just a player that is trying to make his name in the NFL. That's what he is. Now, it's disappointing because they can use the help on defense. I have no explanation for those actions. It's ridiculous. But I don't think it's going to cripple the Patriots. I don't think it's going to be this epic distraction that they're not going to be able to manage. I mean, none of the above. He's not that good.
Here's my thing.
What?
I think the court system will probably give cover to the Patriots, right? Because if the court says you're no longer free or you'll be held on whatever, then there, you know what I mean? There's nothing that Belichick can do other than say the law took care of the law and we're by the law and that's what it is.